There we go. Hi, everybody. Thanks for showing up today to our blab on Got a Bitchy Pomeranian or any other kind of dog. And we're going to be talking about what to do about that. And we've got a couple of guests in here today to talk about it. So we're going to invite anybody to ask their questions once we go through our first one about the palm. So get your questions ready about anything you have about your dog. I'm JT Clough. I have been a professional dog trainer for about 16 years. I do a lot of other things, author, writer, coach a lot of people online, and do dog swag. I sell dog swag is one of the things I do. So I actually put a Pomeranian in my dog swag so everybody can have it. Here's Shirley. I'm just going to go ahead and put her in since it's hers, okay. And we'll bring her on. So what I want to do right now is introduce my friend and colleague and all-around super cool guy, Bill. Oh, who is Bow Wow Bill. He's known as Bow Wow Bill, and I'm going to let him tell his story about all the things he does. And then we have Christy here too, who is another co-host, and Christy has a organic farm. And she is sort of a blab expert, and she's helping us co-host here. Couple of things before I have Bill do his introduction. You can help us out here by inviting all of your friends by hitting the tweet button over there on the left-hand side, and that will invite all your Twitter friends. So thank you for the people who have already done that, and I invite anybody else to do that. We are going to be taking questions live right after we go through the palm questions. So you can ask your question. We can see it better if you put a /Q and then write your question. It will pop up big so we can see it. So that would be helpful. And I think that is about it. We will be watching the questions on the side and get to you. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Bill and let him introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bill Church. I operate Bow Wow Bill's Dog Training. I have a ranch up here about 45 miles north of Seattle. I've been working with dogs ever since I was a young kid, and just really have a passion working with them and teaching people about them. And I've had this business up here for almost 10 years. And I also have a little ranch up here where we do our own gardening and grow our own food. And I also have a couple podcasts. I have the Free Your Mind podcast at freeyourmindpodcast.com that I do, and we talk about occult sciences, esoteric knowledge, symbolism, secret societies, all that stuff. And so it's out of the purview of dog training, but I try to bring in a lot of the behavior aspects that I've learned working with dogs and my perception and my observation as well to that podcast. So check it out, and and we're going to be launching a couple other businesses pertaining to dogs to help professionals in the dog industry as well. So looking forward to that.
Awesome.
Thank you, Bill.
And I'm so glad to have two different perspectives in here and double the ideas.
Right, and there's nothing, in the dog training world, there's a famous saying, a famous quote that if you get 3 dog trainers in a room, the only thing that 2 of them will agree on is that the third one is wrong. And
oh no.
Yeah, so there's a lot of disconnect, and I think that it's because we're in the emotional arena with these dogs that a lot of these attacks will get salacious or, there's nothing that we shouldn't be able to unpack with compassion, understanding, and a logical approach to a situation.
Right. Okay, my daughter Sherelle. Okay, JT, do you want to say how this all came about?
Yeah. So I was on a blab. I've started a weekly blab actually, and it's all about dogs, covering all kinds of arenas in the dog world. Just like Bill said, there's a lot of things you can cover and a lot of opinions about it. So I was on talking about it, and I happened to come across Christy, who asked me a question about her palm. And so we decided to go ahead and do a full blab on it, just to find out what could happen. So I met her that way, and it's been kind of fun. I did a blab with her last week, and it was on 7 things you could do with your dog in the wintertime to keep them entertained. So that was kind of fun. Got a lot of traction on that afterwards. People were really interested in that. So we'll be doing these.
Especially with the blizzard that was impending right the next weekend on the East Coast and here in the US.
Yes, exactly. So it was helpful. So anyway, we talked about things like that. So this week we decided to talk about her daughter's bitchy palm, see what we could do about that, and invite anybody else on to ask questions. I think the answers to these questions are actually going to be helpful because it does pertain to just behaviors that dogs do. So that's how I met Christy. So with that, let's talk about the palm. Did the palm have a name, first of all?
Sherelle?
Yeah.
Can you hear?
Yep.
Do you want to tell a little bit about Sonny?
Well, right now, she's being just the cutest little girl ever, sitting here on my lap. She's almost 8, and I adopted her about 2 years ago. 2 years ago in November. And she's a super good dog when we're here hanging out by ourselves together. Excuse me. But last time when I visited my parents down in South Dakota, she was a very bitchy palm. And Mom was actually concerned about it, kind of like, this is not good. She's behaving so awfully, and anytime anybody would come near me, she was, I say protective, she would say aggressive and growling at them, and usually she would go and snuggle up on Mom's lap and hang out with her, and she didn't really do that like she normally would. And I was there for longer than I normally am. I was there for about 5 or 6 days, and then we got back home and everything was as normal as it could be. So I mentioned it to my vet, and she didn't really have the time to discuss it and talk about it right then. But what suggestions do you have to handle a bitchy palm?
And let me preface this a little bit by saying, JT, that and Bill, Sonny progressively got worse. Initially, when it comes to strangers, period, she's not the most social butterfly, I guess, let's put it that way. She likes you to a point, but she will nip and bite at people if you've infringed on a territory that she just doesn't want you to be around. And so she's, I call her socially inept, I guess, if you will. And it seems to get worse and worse every time that Sherelle comes home, to the point where now, and like I said, I am concerned from the perspective that if she's out in public and taking her for a walk, that the dog, that Sonny will nip at somebody and draw blood, and then they'll get pissed and they'll sue her. And because she's even nipped at me and, drew a drop of blood, nothing earth shattering, but it scares me that she might have to put the dog down or something because Sonny just goes awry.
I don't think.
All right, Bill.
We'll put the dog down. I tell people about the putting the dog down. We got so many options available to us, so I don't even pretend like that's not even in consideration right now. Anytime that I put a dog or euthanize a dog, I'm always looking at quality of life before I look at behavior, because the behavior is always a symptom of the overall environment, and we have to get to the root of the behavior. We don't just put a Band-Aid or what I'd call chopping leaves. We want to get down to the root, and sometimes that takes a 30,000-foot view to get a proper perspective. Now, first place that I start is I research immediately right when I get a dog. I go to my Morris Dog Breed book. It's like an encyclopedia for dogs. Okay, we have a Pomeranian right there. And so I want to do a little research on the initial job for these dogs. A lot of these dogs, when they were initially bred, were bred for a particular reason. And that reason that they were bred a lot of times is like vermin or ratting or whatever. And we have a much more sterile environment now that we might not need these dogs for that particular activity And so we have to find another activity that's going to stimulate that intrinsic desire that this dog has. Does that make sense? And so we have to become the dog by proxy and kind of know what's going on in that dog's mind. A couple things that I heard you say that I kind of want to highlight. When the dog is getting territorial or possessive, it's our indicator that, you know, something's not clicking, that we have some doubts, fears, anxieties here. And I also tell people that it's not up to the dog, period. It's up to us, and we have to show the dog exactly how to live in the human world, because there's a lot of contraptions that humans have that will invoke doubts, fears, anxieties in a dog. And so we have to start the foundation work with the proper training and to baby step it to the dog so they know what to expect. And then we start to increase our stimulus, taking the dog closer and closer to threshold without going over, and just so we can show the dog exactly what to, or what this world is. Does that make sense? Like we have strollers, we have skateboards, we have all these things that could invoke that fearful response. And also when we are introducing a dog to a new space, a dog isn't automatically looking at other people or dogs as friends yet. You know, they're looking at it as intruders, and they're still trying to get a firm grip on the situation. And so a lot of times people want to do like a human characteristics where we see a dog that is stressed out, and we want to go, and we're nurturers by nature, and so we want to go and nurture that. Where a dog might look at that as a challenge. And so when we go and try to pet that dog, that the dog is like automatically filled with doubts, fears, anxieties. And as we get to that bifurcation of is he going to attack or is he going to pet me? A lot of times they think that it's the former, that you're going to hurt him. And so they're going to err on the side of caution and bite to get their space back to a neutral ground. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so they're trying to correct the situation, and a lot of times it's just putting them into too much of overwhelm, too much stimulus, where they don't have enough experience to draw back on to know that what's expected of them.
So Sonny had been to my parents several times, so it wasn't so much that it was a new place for her.
Well, it depends. I mean, remember that the neural structure in the mind of a brain we're all mammals. And so we all possess certain parts of our body, right? We all have stomachs, hearts, intestines, you know, a brain. And being mammals, we all have a particular time that this neuro reconstruction process happens. And how we found out that time was during NASA was sending up astronauts, and they did some tests on these astronauts where they took inverted lenses and put them on their eyes. And they wanted to record when these pictures that were upside down would be corrected by the brain. And so these inverted lenses, even though they're wearing them, they wanted to see when the brain would adjust it to make it a proper picture. And that took 27 to 45 days. Okay? And so that is a neural reconstruction process, is that 27 to 45 days until we start developing what we call as human beings our comfort zone. Does that make sense? And so when we delve out of our comfort zone, what happens? We get doubts, fears, anxieties. We get quiet. We get reserved. We're not ourselves a lot of times. Say like we're starting a new class in college or something like that, a new experience where we've never been there before. We have no clue the schedule, the routine, and we don't know who any of these people are. And so for about 27 to 45 days, we're going to be a little bit reserved until we get a full understanding of this environment. And then we're going to start to see our true personality, right? Personality. Where in the dog world, we're going to start seeing their true temperament after that 27 to 45 days. And so she hasn't had enough experience at mom's house or grandma's house. And not only that, but enough proper experience where she can actually process and take it all in and let that neuro reconstruction take effect. And when we do this dog training and when we work with these dogs, that neuro reconstruction time is a very important time. And we call that soak time, S-O-A-K, like soak. And we say that we let the information that we just introduced soak in. Okay, and that's basically getting those neurons developed. Okay, and the other thing is that we have to, show the dog exactly, what we expect with obedience commands. And so I definitely get my dogs obedience trained first and foremost, and I teach them all the standards by AKC standards. And then once I get the obedience, then I start working on marker training. And what the marker training, what's very important about this marker training is that it teaches the dog to perform away from me or away from the handler. And so it gives them that confidence that they're okay by themselves. Okay, and so that's the other thing that I start is I definitely recommend getting some solid obedience training and also getting, working with the dog. And what we do is we take that particular dog and we look at the motivations that they have. Every dog has particular characteristics, but there's some dogs that love affection. There's some dogs that love the ball. There's some dogs that are crazy about treats. And so we take notes on what's motivating them and what makes them happy. And so we want to just kind of, pay attention to those. And so we tailor that to the specifics of that particular dog. Do you have anything to add, JT? Or
I don't really, other than, that's all actually very succinctly put in a large spectrum of what, the steps to do. Again, I think it's important to understand the intrinsic thing that's in the dog. What were they bred for and why are they reacting that way? And I think that helps the owner to understand why it might be happening in the beginning. I guess one of the things I would ask you, Bill, is in that perspective of kind of progression, how you would take a dog through in this particular scenario, what would you start with first? What would you do first?
We have to interrupt the pattern. We have to interrupt the pattern of this behavior because it has become almost a ritualistic behavior. We have a pharmaceutical company in our brain right here and that's what these doubt, fears, anxieties are basically polypeptides that are being pumped out by our amygdala that are saying, be mindful of this environment, right? And so they get addicted to these responses. They get addicted to adrenaline. They get addicted to the different adrenal, I don't know the exact chemical compounds that are released when they're freaked out, but that adrenaline, I'll call it adrenaline. They get addicted to that. And just like a drug addict, it takes a stronger response to get that fix that next time. And so we're kind of dealing with a drug addict a little bit here. We have to interrupt that problem and we have to say, you're not going to, we need to show you a different, more healthy, positive route to express yourself, because we don't want you biting people. You become a liability. And not only that, but you make mom anxious, and mom being anxious is not going to help, with being that confident, calm leader that you need to follow. And so, I tell the dogs, help me, help you, and
yeah, I'll jump in here when you asked what I thought about that. I also think it's really important to add to that picture that we have to think about our response to it. So my question to Christy would be, do you feel anxious? Do you not know what to do? What is your reaction when this happens? And do you feel that before there's even a reaction? Because if that's the case, a lot of times you're drawing in that reaction before anything's ever even happened. So you're literally telling the dog to go ahead and react.
You mean that dog there that looks so sweet
I know,
and
look,
innocent?
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
I'm not fooled.
So awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, she's like, I'm such a good dog. I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Yeah, it's not me. You're obviously talking about some other dog.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, clearly.
Exactly.
No, I don't think my reaction is any different. I'm echoing, I think, somewhere. Sorry.
I think you're okay.
Am I echoing for just me or for you guys?
Nope, I can't hear it.
I can hear it.
Okay.
Anyway, she doesn't seem bad when she didn't used to seem bad, and when she is snarky, I guess, barky and snarky at me, I just kind of ignore her and walk away. And just like I said, it's just progressively gotten worse, and I just thought she needs some kind of socialization. It was all I could think of. Mm-hmm. That, you know, if there's something out there that could help her figure out how to train her to just be nice.
Yeah, well, that's that etiquette. You know, that's the etiquette that we want to see. And just like I tell people, you know, they ask me about these treats and what do I do with the, you know, do I give them a treat now or do I? And you know, I don't do the treats. I don't do that until later. I mean, the treats, I call treats dog money. And just like when we go out in public with our kids, we're not giving our kid $20 every time they say thank you or please. It's just what they do. And so that's, you know, where a lot of these trainers get off on the wrong path, I think, is by really, really throwing a lot of treats at this dog where that becomes the overall goal instead of the behavior. And we want to set up the environment where the dog figures it out on their own. And when we're constantly there, then we become part of that training. And when we leave, guess what? So does the training. Okay? And so that's where this training becomes very important to really
in the situation without, you know, say I were to take her home this weekend and she starts acting up, do I remove?
Well, first thing I would do is put a line on that dog. So get a drag line, get a leash. That's our number one training tool.
Move her from the situation when she's...
And immediately, once that behavior happens, we need to redirect it into somewhere that's much more positive or what we expect. Okay? And so if the dog is... And we also have to get inside that dog's mind. The number one mistake that my clients make is they anthropomorphize the dog, meaning that they put human characteristics on the dog. And just like I was saying earlier, how our personality comes out after 27 to 45 days, so does the dog's temperament. Okay, they're not people. They are dogs. And that's very important to understand. And here's why. As I was discussing about the brain, our brain has a part to it that these dogs and the mammals do not have. We call it the prefrontal cortex. It's also called the neo or new cortex, right? And so we have this brain that allows us so many more capabilities with our thought process, where everything's linear and everything's connected, and we can actually time travel in our mind. It's a wonderful thing, right? But to overlay that on a dog is doing them a disservice because they don't have these same capabilities. And so by anthropomorphizing that dog is a huge mistake. And so what we need to do on the flip side is become that dog by proxy. And so we get into that dog's mind and we're like, okay, you know, what's she trying to get out of this situation? A lot of times it's a fear response. You know, get her out of here. I don't like it. You know, alarm, intruder, right? And so we have to become that dog and just be like, that's not an intruder. That's my mom. I need you to chill out and go lay down and relax.
I'm kind of nice.
Right. Well, and the thing is that what we also need to remember, and what is very, very important to know, is that when your dog is freaking out, your dog is stressed out. Okay? And
that's what I assume.
Yes. And we can't mislabel. A lot of people are like, oh, they're boisterous or they're animated. It's like, no, that dog is stressed out. And with stress responses comes a deterioration of thought process and muscle. All this stuff is not good to have in our body. You know, these adrenal responses are meant to be very used very, very sparsely. You know, we don't want to be adrenalized every single day. And if you look at brain scans, this is something I talk about on my podcast. If you look at brain scans of people that are always hopped up on adrenaline, it's one of the most damaging substances to the human brain. It looks like they're on cocaine. And so that's why it's very important to understand that this dog is stressed, and that, you know, we have to get them into a calm, receptive mind pattern. And so we get them out of reactionary modality and into reasoning modality, where they're like, oh, okay, this happened. Okay, this is what I need to do. And then that's where that reinforcement comes in. It's a lot of times that people get that backwards, where because we're nurturers by nature, we want to automatically get in and reinforce because it feels good. But by doing that, we're putting that cart before the horse, and we could be reinforcing unwanted behavior instead.
A perfect example of that, and it happens all the time, it's a natural response for people, and it just reinforces exactly what we were talking about, is when the dog does get stressed, when they start doing things like barking or lunging at you, or, you know, whatever it is that they're doing in that stressed manner, we tend to immediately turn and say, it's okay. And we try to calm them down. It's okay. So in that dog's mind, without their ability to logic like we do, you're telling that dog, it's okay to be doing exactly what you're doing. And you're reinforcing the behavior. In our mind, in our human mind, especially, I find it true, you may, I don't know about your clients, Bill, but I do find it very true with women. They're always trying to nurture it out of the dog. And so this nurturing of it's okay, you feel like that's how you're helping the dog. And really, that is a serious detriment to the dog. You're telling the dog it is okay to act that way. You're almost rewarding the dog for that kind of behavior.
You know, 85% of my clients are women. It's interesting, you know, but that's exactly it, is that I think that women, because they have that nurturing aspect that's ingrained genetically, you know, your guys are moms, excuse me. And I always freak out whenever I bring in a puppy, you know, to a class or something. The littler the puppy, man, all the women just come right to me, you know, and I was just like, wow, this is interesting. But that's where it makes sense, you know, and that's where I kind of come into the picture and introduce some of this logic and just be like, look, that's not what we do. This is what we do. And then at first it's hard because it kind of goes against, it's counterintuitive, you know, for women, my clients. But once they see, and that's what I tell them, I'm not your expert. JT's not your expert. None of us are your expert. Let your dog be your expert. Okay, because they are the ones that are going to tell us if this philosophy works. Okay, and so that's what I tell them. It's like, no, don't believe me. Or, I mean, believe me, do it, but let the dog show us if this is exactly what we want. And guess what? They're always coming back and go like, oh man, I feel so good. You know, it's just, a lot of it is just laying down those boundaries and just being like, nuh-uh, that's not what we do. Here's what we do. And then once they do that on their own, then it's like, I'm so proud of you. I love you. That is my dog right there. And that's the energy that we want to have. And it happens with the visualization. You know, we start, you know, just take and imagine what it would be like, you know, going to mom's house and having mom coming over and petting the puppy, and the puppy just being like, oh, I love you. And, you know, going anywhere you want to go and not having to worry about this dog, and actually having this dog enhance your experience. You know, what would that feel like?
Right. Cheryl, can you still hear? Oh,
I think she's, but I mean, that's what you want to do. You want
it's really,
yeah, I think between the two of us, we're both seemingly having issues. It's a bad Mickenin day, apparently, because we're both popping in and out. So,
yeah. Well,
so
and that's what
you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it's very important when you do this visualization to say a couple emotions, how you feel confident, you know, free, and then when you go back and we kind of visualize this again, I want to hold on to those emotions and really feel what it feels like to have that trained dog. And so on the flip side, I want to use these emotions to construct the new form of what's possible. There, Cheryl.
So do you have like a step 1, step 2, step 3 kind of thing that?
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, it's hard to say because I'm not there. I would recommend getting a professional that knows the nuances of this behavior. We can do a Skype where, and basically what I do is I have my clients, if I have a remote client that I can't be there in person with them, I want them to videotape the response and videotape the behavior. And then I go back through and I slow it way down and I start highlighting certain parts of the body to pay attention to for triggers or indications that this dog is feeling overwhelmed. And then once we have that, then what do we do to redirect it? And I would definitely recommend getting some solid basic obedience. And also you have a purebred dog, and so there's no reason why after you get this obedience that you can't take them down to an event and maybe get them a little ribbon, a little AKC obedience ribbon. It's pretty cool when the dogs have that, and also cool for you because it shows you a different form of what's possible with the relationship with our dog.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that as basic as it sounds, one of the things that you need to understand is to go through and do the basics, get somebody to work with, because here's where I think a lot of people get tripped up on it, is they're trying to fix this bad behavior, but they have never really done the basics or had the basics solidly put into their dog. The dog doesn't understand the basics. The misconcept is the basics seem really simple. Like in your head, this dog understands sit. This dog understands quiet.
Right.
But you sit there and say it over and over to the dog, and the dog doesn't do it, which is the sure sign your dog really doesn't know it. Your dog is reacting, and you're naming something that they're doing, and they're taking that name as they're doing it right because you keep naming it that, and you allow them to continue that behavior. So they really don't know the basics. In our head, the basics are so simple that they actually do know it. They don't know it. So you have to back way up and make sure that your dog has a clear understanding of literally the basics before you can get them to understand anything that's, a higher learning curve for them, getting them to do some other things. But if you don't have that, I think, Bill, you mentioned earlier, give your dog something that they know, it makes them feel comfortable, right? And so if you don't have a solid sit, or you couldn't send your dog to a spot, they don't know that. They don't have anything really to grasp on. I always tell people it's like starting a new job, walking into a place, you're in a situation where there's several people, they're all doing their thing, and nobody really tells you what to do. They just kind of throw out some commands at you, there's your computer, just open it up, just start, right? And you're like,
correct. You don't know what you're doing, and that's unfair.
Yeah, you don't really know what you're supposed to be doing. Yet you'll go in those scenarios, even as humans, we'll go into that scenario and try to act like we know what we're doing, because we don't want to look stupid that we don't know what we're doing. So we're acting like we know what we're doing, and we don't. Imagine that feeling. What does that feel like? You inside are freaking out, trying to act normal on the outside, but inside you're completely freaking out, and you don't know what to do. That's how the dog feels. It's just that the dog doesn't have that filter that's not appropriate behavior. We're in a new work situation. We have a filter of like, okay, try to act normal here. Try to act like you're cool. Try to act like you actually know what's going on. You know what to do. You put that front on. Dogs don't have that front, and that's where you get the behavior that's unacceptable to us. You see the stress come out in them. They react with the stress simply because they don't know what to do. They don't have a comfortable spot to go to because they're really not clear about what that comfortable spot is.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, and not only that, but I work with dogs all over the country that are champions. that have agility titles, and when I go through and we have this little gremlin in the training, they're starting to do something that they've never done before. And I go back and I want to know exactly what they've done with their training process so I can get a full understanding of the pattern that they've worked with this dog. And if they haven't done the foundation work, I go right back and I'm like, hey, dog, you're going to be like a puppy a little bit, even though you're 6 or 7, but we need to go back and do this foundation work. And so we kind of clear up those gaps. And so it's not, even our champion dogs, they have to go back through and do this. And when they've done this foundation work, it's amazing to see. But, when I work with my dogs and my clients, the 3 things that I tell them, the 3 words that I tell them is slow, is fast. Okay? We're working with behavior here. And this behavior is not push button. This behavior, it takes time. And it's that Neuro Reconstruction process that's going to happen. And we have to spoon feed these dogs. And we have to show them very slowly and clearly what we expect. And then we let the dog discern. And we let the dog show us that they get it. And there's nothing more rewarding to my heart when that dog is like, oh, wait, no, now I'm doing the right thing. And I'm just like, yeah, there we go, buddy, right there. Because then I'm seeing that brain work and I'm seeing that the connections being made where, and it takes time. It takes time and it takes, a little leeway. With our expectations, we don't want to, automatically get on the dog and expect precision work. That takes work and that takes polishing. And so we start small, we celebrate our victories, and we give the time to the dog to let them discern and let them think and let them really, really know what is expected of them. And not only that, but when we have them discerning and doing proper action for the behavior, then we're going to start proofing it. And that's how we start introducing stimulus based on the different drives that the dog has. Defensive, social, and prey are the 3 major ones that we're playing with. And then we use all these drives to proof the training, to proof the concepts that we are introducing to this dog. For instance, like if I'm proofing a dog on prey drive, so I have a dog that has been going after chickens or something, and so they come to me for training, that's the first thing I'm doing is introducing this foundation work, doing some discernment tests, and then once the dog performs reliably, I'm going to bring in a chicken. And I'm going to bring in, I'm putting them in or what's that?
Bill, can you clarify when you say you are proofing a dog, can you clarify? We have somebody, Skip in here is wondering, what exactly does that mean?
It means that we're proving that this training is working. And just like JT was talking about how we say sit, 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 hush, 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 if the dog doesn't do it, then it doesn't work. And so we're proofing it. Does that so we're making sure that the dog responds even with stimulus that is going to make them react. Does that make sense? So
in other words, I'll jump in here and say that I like to describe it in a way as you really want to know, you really want to understand and be clear that your dog understands. So when we talk about proofing, you can get your dog to sit if there was no stimulus around, nothing in the room but like a piece of chicken that you're luring them with. They sit. That is no stimulus, right? You can probably get your dog to repeat that action several times. And when you start with the dog, you want to start with them in a situation where they can win, where they understand what the behavior is. Bill's talking about proofing a dog means that you have done it enough times with your dog in enough situations with enough stimulus added into it that you've proofed the fact that your dog knows it. So a lot of times a dog will know sit in one spot, in one thing that you always tell them sit, and they get that. But you move them to another spot or add another stimulus in, and they don't know it. So do they really know what it means? Not necessarily. You have to get them to understand in several different scenarios with different kinds of stimulus what sit means. Once you get them to understand that and you keep adding in stimulus, the word proofing, I think, is adding in more stimulus. You've proofed that your dog understands what action you're asking of them, that they can perform it with the word, with stimulus around them. Now you have proofed the fact that your dog does understand what you've asked of them.
Right. Well, and that's exactly it. Is just up in the stimulus, and also looking, and that's why it's important to look at what are the triggers and what causes the dog to be reactive. And that's it, is we're taking them out of this reactionary modality and letting them reason. And basically what I want is, and we also use this as a readiness test. And so every time that I'm training a dog, they're going to have a test to ensure that this dog is ready for the next phase of training. And if they don't pass the test, then we still work on that phase. Okay? And that's very important because dogs learn at different rates, as just like humans do. There's some dogs that are found at the top 10 of the high IQs, and there's some dogs that are found at the bottom 10 of the IQs, and we just have to be more patient with those dogs that are at the bottom, and we might have to be a little bit creative with the dogs that are up at the top. Does that make sense?
Just as an example of that, I have a veterinary friend I was just talking to this morning, I mentioned earlier on the broadcast, who has an Australian Shepherd. It's a puppy, super, super smart. So that dog is more on the top of the pile there. And so teaching that dog is kind of interesting because the dog actually does know quite a few things, and she's good about being consistent about that, but will push through because it's smart. That dog is smarter. So she's trying to figure out ways that she can get around this or do what she wants. She kind of has a will. So she's trying to figure out how to get around and do what it is that she wants to do. So
yeah, we hold those dogs up to a high standard. You know? And it's
right.
amazing.
So
we start to see what they're capable of, and a good example would be Jumpy. Jumpy, check out Jumpy. Go watch his videos on YouTube. He's an Australian cattle dog, a collie cross, but super, super smart dog, and absolutely amazing to watch.
Yeah.
Is that the one that knows like 200 different words?
Well, that's the collie.
That's Chaser.
Yeah. And no, this is Omar Van Mueller, is a trainer down there, and is one of the best trainers, I believe, in the world. And that's what, he just basically has figured out, how to get these dogs to really, really respond with him in a magical way. And it's very cool to see that not only are these dogs responding, but they are taking it to the utmost highest response that they can. They're jumping as high as they can. They're just really, really great performers.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I love watching Jumpy stuff. You really should go on and check out Jumpy.
I did. I wrote it down. So would I just in YouTube? Would I look for Jumpy the dog? Is that
Jumpy the dog, or Training with Omar is Omar's site, and he offers videos as well. I don't think he does a basic obedience, but he does. I got a few of his DVDs here. He's got, he does a good marks video that I would recommend, where we start to do the marks. Does like the tricks, the leg crossing, frisbee, covering the eyes. All that stuff is really neat, but it takes the obedience first. And even Omar will say in those videos that all the dogs have prior obedience training before we start to go into the extra credit stuff. And with the extra credit stuff, that absolutely gets dog money. And so that's where the treats come in. And then the marker and the shaping of behavior with clickers and all that stuff is absolutely used.
Yeah. So comment that's in here from Skip is like a service dog. And it's true of a service dog too. That's exactly where we're going. Those service dogs were taught obedience first, and they really understood the obedience, and then they started laying other things on top of that obedience, so they got it. And it comes down to as simple as it is. Sometimes I feel like a broken record as a dog trainer. Do you feel like that, Bill?
Absolutely.
I don't know. Because it comes back down to repetition.
Repetition's the mother of learning.
Repetition.
That makes sense.
Yeah, say that again. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you, JT.
Word and action and repetition, and following up on that every single time. And I think some of the problem, especially when you have a dog, and in this case, we have a dog that's got an issue. And so we're frustrated with that issue. And in our head, we're trying to logic how to fix that issue quickly. Like, how do we get the dog to not do it right away?
Or put out the fire.
Yeah, it's like, okay, there's got to be a way to logic this dog that this isn't the right behavior. And sometimes we also will blame it on ourselves. Sometimes it is us projecting some things onto the dog. But even if we are, if they don't understand what to do, they can't make a choice to do that. So it literally is back to basics of overlaying what they're supposed to do every single time, and then jumping to the next thing. People think, oh God, they're getting, I'm bored telling the dogs to sit over and over again and to get the dog to do it over and over again. And shouldn't there be something more? Because as humans, we think that we should be adding more tasks very quickly, and that's how they're going to get out of this thing. They're not. They're going to get confused. If they don't understand that one basic thing, you're not able to teach them the next basic thing. And you're definitely not, as Bill was just talking about, those extra credits, not possible.
Well, look at that word understand, is to stand under, to have a good foundation, that you're willing to walk underneath it, to stand under it, right? Understand, to stand under. And so we want to make sure that this dog, is performing exactly how we want. And I mean, It goes on to the nuances. Remember that these dogs live in a world of split seconds. And they're paying attention to the subtle nuances, even of our body structure. And so it's very important, even hand placement. And, a big thing of when I'm teaching my clients is the nuances and how important it is to do step by step, and where to place your dog or your hand on the dog. And when we teach, the first thing that I teach a dog in basic obedience, well, the first command I teach them is, okay, you're free to do what you want to do. That's the very first thing that I teach them. Second thing I teach them, is how to heel. So how to walk on my left side. And when a dog heels, every time that we stop, the dog automatically sits without a cue, because that's a heel. A heel is walking beside you, and when we stop, the dog automatically sits. And so when I go to teach that automatic sit, it's a very, very precise hand placement on the leash where we're and on the dog, exactly what we do. And I'm coaching my clients and watching them over and over and over again do this, and just really, really polishing up exactly what they're doing. And then I set them up for the week. You're doing this all week. And when I do the hand placement, if they don't, and I tell them, you know what, my good clients are doing 25 sits a walk. My great clients are doing 100. Okay? And we're doing 2 walks every single day. So at first, and I said this week might feel a little bit
monotonous.
Monotonous, that's exactly it. But very important that we continue to do it, and that we communicate that this is exactly what we expect from our dog. And I get it. That's why people pay me a lot of money, because I do this monotonous work with their dog, because I don't have time to do it. And when I start to, explain exactly what we're doing with the dog, they're like, oh yeah, here's my money, because it's just a lot of time. And you can't substitute that time with anything other than, that time and that work that we're doing with that dog. And a lot of this stuff is just very, very subtly communicated. But we get dogs that are confident that are, once they get it, they're like, let me show you. And you can see that little spring in their step. They're like, I get it. I know what we're doing. Let me show you.
How cool am I?
How cool am I? And it turns into this, like, I mean, it's not a conceited, it's like, it's
right.
a good type of,
they're proud.
They're proud. And I'm proud. I'm looking at them. I'm like, there's my dog. You're getting it. I'm so proud of you. I love you. This is awesome. Because now, this dog is going to have an amazing life. This dog can go more places with their owners. This dog can, experience so much more. And it's just with that little investment of time, especially at the beginning, to show the dog exactly what we expect. And then to reinforce that when the dog does that, that is exactly what they should be doing. And then that's when the bonding really comes in. Once the dog starts performing reliably, it's like, it's an amazing thing, because then we actually have a reason to give our dog love and lavish praise on them.
Right.
I want to jump in with a point that came up for me when you were talking just there is, you mentioned earlier about how, not to this is not about giving your dog a treat every single time, because then all your dog is, if the treat's not there, everything goes away. That picture of what they're supposed to be doing isn't clear to them because the treat isn't in the picture. The thing that you just said to me, there's somebody else talking. I don't know. It went away now. Huh. Bill, are you sending your extraterrestrials in here right now? Anyway, so echo leg. Thanks, Skip. All right. So one of the things you said, and I think it's really important to get this across to people in getting their dog to do what they want them to do and building that bond, is once the dog understands and they get that feeling of, yeah, I'm doing this. This is right. I'm doing this. The reward for them is that you feel the same way. Look at my dog. My dog knows my dog is cool. My dog knows what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, and just like the dog is a social animal and they're in a pack, and now they're contributing. Now they're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing something. I belong here. And not only that, but by you taking the time and the effort to work with your dog, you are showing the dog that you love them. Because you're taking the time, you're showing them the ins and outs and the structure of the pack. And so, you're showing that dog that you love and care about them. And really quick, before I forget, I wanted to touch on who was the gentleman earlier that was talking about the service dog? Oh, yeah, Skip.
Skip. He also said, Skip just said, sometimes I think my dog is cooler than me. Me too sometimes. But anyway.
Yeah, they know they are. But there's a couple books that I recommend, because I do service dog work, and it's one of my passions, is working with people to give them a different form of what's possible with this dog, and to give them that confidence that they can go in the world by themselves and be okay. But I don't have a disability, and so it's hard for me to relate to somebody that might not you be able to use their hands or something like that. And so there's a couple books that I recommend for anybody that is interested in training their dog for service work. That's Teamwork 1 and Teamwork 2. And this shows you, now keep in mind that this teamwork stuff comes in after the obedience has been laid down, but it's also, actually, no, I think that they walk you through the obedience as well. But it was written by people in the disability world who I believe one of the guys has cerebral palsy, and they wrote it in a way that they train their own dogs. And so I recommend that to anybody that is interested in training a service dog. One, so you can learn how to train your own dog, but two, so you can see the amount of work that goes in with these working dogs. And it needs to be respected, and it's absolutely amazing. So Teamwork 1 and Teamwork 2, and they also have a DVD that goes with that, both of those books. I recommend getting the Spiral book and the DVD so you can work through both of those together. So
the bitchy pom that is not trained in regular obedience is not prepared for these other two, is what you're saying.
No, she needs, well, I mean, you can delve into it a bit, but I think that what she needs is an interrupter of this pattern that has been reinforced by adrenaline. We need to show her a different behavior, what we want, and then we reinforce that when she starts to do it on their own. But it's also, a thing that I tell my little dog clients is that the dogs that get carried around often get carried away with their behavior. And so that's another aspect of it.
That's tweetable. Anybody who's on Twitter right now, that's tweetable. Yeah. Right? What was that again? Can you repeat? Yeah.
Little dogs that get carried around often get carried away. And I've added that little caveat with their behavior, because this lady was like, "Oh no, they're going to take my dog away." And I'm like, no, they're their behavior. But that's it. Is a lot of times it's your little baby, and then another thing that I tell is like, "Oh, this is your baby. So are you touching the dog more than the mama dog touches them?" And they're like, "Yeah." It's like, well,
yeah.
I also recommend watching documentaries, and all of this stuff. Just like we are trying to get this dog out of reactionary modality, we have to get out of a reactionary modality too. And so when we watch these training videos and when we watch these documentaries, no reaction, just observe it and look at how the dog engages with other dogs. Look at how they communicate. They communicate with that body a lot of times. They're spatial navigators. And we use that. Remember what I was saying about becoming the dog by proxy. We once we know, then we can apply.
Right. Mm-hmm. Luckily, she's back.
You're back.
Maybe she can't hear us. I don't know.
Hello.
Yeah, I think she has
a weird connection in here, so I might be in and out.
So
Sonny's excited.
Hello. Well, and then really quick, I was looking at the breed, the Palm breed, and the first thing that they say is a Pomeranian is cocky, animated companion with an extroverted personality. This compact little dog is an active toy breed with an alert character and fox-like expression. They're popular companion dogs and show dogs. So their temperament is very outgoing, okay, which can transmute into kind of being bossy, okay? And so they're good family dogs, easily trained. So there you go, they're easily trained.
Well, you know what? Let's put that into. You talked earlier in the broadcast about visualization and the person's visualization, and I think that's an important point to make right here. With that in mind, is that when you do have a dog that starts doing behaviors that you don't want to have happen, you start feeling like it's impossible, and you start just expecting them to act that way. And so you project that is exactly what's going to happen. So you need to start putting in your head, this dog, obviously, it's in the description of a Pomeranian, they're easily trained. Right? So start thinking that. Start thinking how easy it is to train my dog. When I start showing her what to do, she's going to know what to do, and it's going to be easy to train her. That visualization will take you a long ways in getting where you want to go, rather than you can literally stop yourself by in your head thinking about how hard this is and thinking about how frustrating it is and thinking about how, well, she's just not getting it. And part of the reason that they're just not getting it is because you didn't know the steps to take in the beginning. You had logicked it way out and were trying to come up with, oh, it's okay. And the dog understood it's okay means don't do that. It was completely confusing to your dog. So I think visualization and understanding, literally think your dog's easy to train and then go about training her.
Well, and I think that we have a misconception of what a trained dog looks like. And so I recommend people going to YouTube and typing in Pomeranian obedience trial or Pomeranian AKC obedience and watching those videos. Okay. And then while you're watching it, just pretend like you're that person and that dog is your dog. And then there's where we start.
Good idea. Great idea.
Yeah, because
and that's what I was saying to her. I said, there's got to be something online. This is where it started with JT is after Sherelle was home this last time, I said, Sherelle, there's got to be something online where people are training you with videos or whatever on how to train your dog. And she's telling somebody about me, apparently, complaining that I said this. But so I'm glad that you said that. Apparently she didn't look. I did look a little bit, but I didn't look on YouTube, and I didn't look specific to her breed. I think I Googled how to socialize your dog. And then I just took a couple sips. Like that and said,
a bottle of
it's my grand dog. It's not my problem.
That's right. That's how I got this beard. I was drinking the whiskey as a kid, so you got to be careful there.
Oh my God, how funny.
It's your grand dog. And I found, I just typed in YouTube and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down. And they're all Pomeranians, and so,
okay.
Awesome. Start with what is possible and then we got to have a model. And so that model dog is on YouTube. And I want you to watch these dogs and I want you to watch their body structure. And I want you to watch how they're engaging with their handler. Okay. And I also want you to pay attention to see if there's any distractions there. Okay. Other dogs and whatnot. But that's where it starts, at just knowing what is expected and then having that visualization. And then once out here becomes similar to what's going on in here, then we're on the right path.
So Christopher just called you Bow Wow Beard.
Yeah, I'll take it. A client of mine told me that my beard, he's like, you know what? That adds to your dog training clout. And I was just like, okay, cool.
So Christopher says, like, I am autistic and I've trained many service dogs. I find that interesting because I don't know if you've subscribed to this, Bill, or not, but many times dogs learn like in the autistic manner where everything's in a picture. You can't like put a whole bunch of explanation into it. It's sensory overload, and you have to like back up and think about it as a picture and show it as a picture.
And this reminds me of the conversation I had with Temple Grandin. People don't know Temple Grandin. He is an autistic gal. I wonder if her book is right here. That's exactly what she said. Is that and that's how she gets in there, and she gets down, and that's how people that don't know her. She's the one that took these cattle chutes and designed them in a way to get the dogs or get the cows to stop balking. Stop stressing them out. And so they were cattle prodding these cows to get them into the slaughterhouse. And
awesome movie.
She put she designed this run, and so the cows were immediately going in there. And how she did that was she was getting down in that run and looking all around just like she was a cow. And she's like, oh my gosh, there's that chain. And you better believe I do this too. I go and I'll get into a dog crate sometimes. I kind of want to see what they're seeing. And I go back to their area and I kind of try. And that's what getting the dog or becoming the dog by proxy is all about. It's kind of like, let me put myself in this dog's situation and see how I would respond to this. And that's exactly what Temple said. Is like, look, they are visual learners, and it's absolutely important that we.
Bill, did you?
What's that?
I'm sorry. I was just Christopher said he knows Temple Grandin personally. He's met her. I don't know how closely he's worked with her, but
so I'm actually I'm going to bring Christopher on. He's gonna talk a little bit about that.
Okay. And Sherelle, do you want me to pop out, or Sherelle, can you pop out?
You should have
She's popping out. Okay. All right, so she popped out. So Christopher, go ahead and come on. There we go.
That was an excellent movie. I saw the movie about Temple Grandin too.
Yeah. Hey, Christopher.
Y'all can hear me,
Hey, Christopher.
Right? Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Good.
Good. How are you?
Dude, that's a slick beard.
Thank you very much, man. Keep growing yours.
man.
Something to aspire to.
That's
I
right.
gotta shave mine because it goes like that a little bit.
Yeah, mine did too, man. I had this weird long thing here that my wife just grabbed me one day.
So yeah, let me kind of introduce myself, give you guys a little brief overview of what I've done in my life and what all I've worked on. I will get to Temple Grandin and just the connection. But I'm 22 years old. I've been in special education my whole life. I have been training dogs since I was probably when my dad was showing dogs, and I first got my own first golden retriever that I personally owned when I was 6.5 years old, and I've been training dogs ever since. I mean, I've been asked by the state of Colorado to train dogs for their narcotics unit, but I can't physically do that because there's a lot of detail that just personally in my my head when I learn, I see in pictures like Temple does. Yep. And that's why I kind of got in the connection with her, is that I understand, what all she's been through, knowing that I've gone to different schools for autistics. And a lot of people look at me personally and say, look, you don't seem to have, the characteristics of autism. They don't understand that that's a very, 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 I guess, derogatory remark towards not just maybe the whole community. That being said, the only thing that I find really interesting is society these days. They don't really have a understanding of what and how to treat others. They're scared. They're not as, I guess, reassured as they should be that we are not physically ill. We're not bad people. I mean, that's one thing that I want to get out there into community, is that a lot of people don't understand that we're brilliant. Now, I'm not saying, I'm not trying to put any of y'all down, but that's what I was told growing up with different.
That's awesome. Keep going. This is good.
Yeah. Anyway, so I just wanted to kind of let you guys know is that yes, I do personally know Temple Grandin. I actually graduated from Eastern New Mexico University of Roswell with a vet degree. I have all 4 years I need to get for my tech. So I am a vet tech and understand that Temple Grandin, we met when I moved to Colorado in 1999. My mom personally knows her through one of her friends who lives up in Fort Collins. I almost went to CSU Fort Collins, which was my all-time goal, and that's been definitely a career changer. But I'm thinking about going back to school for getting my actual doctorate's degree. I don't know if that's going to happen, though, with just the learning. I do have all these things set in mind and want to be able to, help others that are like me that have been, having to do occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech, vision. All of those are factors in the dog training world. Yes, and I'm sorry, I did go off on a small tangent there, but I do understand that it happens. But
did you freeze?
To really see the
Christopher, you're cutting out a little bit. We lost you completely there.
I think if you refresh and come back in. Christopher, just refresh and come back in. Okay.
Well, how cool is
maybe if he grows a beard like yours, Bill, he would get the stamina and chutzpah to go back to school.
Look at that. First time.
Carry around.
Once you can do this. Yeah. Once you can do that, then you got a beard. right there.
Yeah, that's a real beard.
You are a rock star.
That is for certain.
There's another one. I do a ton of them. Well,
Have you tried to see how many you can put in there?
My wife. This is my, anytime I argue with my wife, she'll just grab my beard. And I'm just like, oh, okay.
You win.
You win.
I say uncle.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's not always a good thing, but how cool is this Blab that we can invite people just to come in and chat, man? I'm starting to
see, Bill. This is
exactly
first ever Blab that I've ever done, and I like it. I see the promise of this. I mean, especially with getting access to people, and just like what Chris said about about training service dogs. I mean, this isn't pretend. These aren't tricks. These are behaviors that we are going to rely on sometimes with people's lives. And so it's a totally different concept of what a service dog is. And and it takes a year-long process. Looks like Chris is coming back.
Here he is.
Yeah,
there we go.
So Bill, you've never been in a Blab even watching before today? Well, you just kicked it off strong. And
Here we go.
Bill actually, though,
ballsy.
Bill does podcasts and interviews people, and so I knew that he was going to. I knew you're going to totally dig this because you can not only put in what you like, all of your knowledge and your presentation, and you've always got things at your fingertips to present. But then you can actually interact with people. So I find it really cool because you can really interact with people and bring them out and invite them in. You can do really cool interviews. Just like this, Christopher is like totally following what we're talking about here and has contribution. And so you can have people jump in and contribute. And I think it's cool that way. So
yeah, I'm definitely going to
I totally think it's awesome. I just found out about this app through a buddy of mine yesterday. So he told me about it. I said, I'll give it a try. And, here I am.
Cool. Fantastic. Yeah, good to have you on and glad you found this Blab. JT had her first one last week. And
that's my dog. That's my service dog.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Nice.
And mobility assistance or what do you?
No, she's actually a seizure alert and also sorry, I've been training dogs this morning and I'm totally out of it. Yeah. I went up to Fort Collins actually this morning and drove down about an hour ago and wow, I'm never doing that drive again.
Yeah, insane, man. Well, I know that
2.5 hour drive.
Is it? Wow. Well, welcome. Now you're here.
I'm wondering if anybody has any questions. Just want to remind people, first of all, that you can tweet this out using the little Twitter icon, and it'll tweet it out to people. And also, if you want to, JT, touch on what you're covering next week. Do you have your topic?
You know what? I don't have my topic next week. I was kind of going to do this one and see what came up, what people were looking for. If there's anything that is top of the list. I do have a list going. I don't have it in front of me of things that I could talk about. Bill could probably give me about 4,500 ideas right now about what we could talk about next week. But so I don't have it planned, but something to do with dogs.
My wife. Yeah, I got a dog here too.
Let's see. Oh, Chapucci.
Oh.
Nice.
He's on my shoulders.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Impressive.
That's cool.
Come on, let's see if we can get you up here. Come on.
I just wanted to see if I could.
This is Wyatt.
One last thing. Hey, stop, River. Go out.
Wyatt.
Oh, there's Wyatt.
Wyatt, can
Hi,
you
Wyatt.
speak?
Oh, Emmy can't quite get up here.
Let's
see.
Wyatt,
Emmy.
speak.
Emmy.
There we go.
Nice.
Oh, my.
That's good. That's good. Oh my God. Yellow lab.
There's Emmy. Yeah.
Here, Wyatt.
And here's me sitting here dogless because I don't know how to train it. And that's how JT and I got connected, because I didn't want the responsibility of a dog without knowing how to train it, coupled with my daughter's bitchy Pomeranian and wondering how she could train it. And JT was kind of walking with trepidation on should I or shouldn't I move into Blab and try to do a dog training thing on Blab. And I jumped in. This was in a totally different Blab, like what should I do type of Blab. And I jumped in as she was jumping off going, wait. Yes, please do this, because I think there's a ton of people out there that would really benefit from talking about this. Like one I'm thinking of as Christopher's in here. Another good topic I think would be how to approach service dogs, like us as civilians, and people not having a service dog. I think I understand there's a certain code of conduct and you shouldn't pet service dogs and all that kind of stuff. Well, and I really think it would be beneficial to know
the difference.
That would be a good show, I think.
Service dogs, emotional support dogs, all this stuff, because I think that more and more people are taking advantage of the federal laws that
bless you.
And so maybe we can touch on that too. Not just how to spot, and etiquette for service dogs, but also how to spot and etiquette for a dog that might be faking the service dog too.
Yeah, and that's something else. Before I go into that topic, I wanted to let everyone, any listeners that are on, I want them to know, feel free to message me via on here. So, any questions you may have, feel free to ask. I've been asked everything. I'm not scared. Anything that you want to ask, feel free, whether it's dog related or not, having to do with disability or not, that's fine. This is why I'm here. But yeah, so anyway, I gotta call you this again, Bow Wow Beard. It just fits you, man.
Love it. I'll take it, man.
Love it. Yeah.
All right, so yeah, the only really one of the most strict topics I have ever had to talk to, and I've been called on by the police. I've been called on by State Patrol at different events. Like I go to the International Service Dog Committee, and which is a committee out here in Colorado that actually sees all the service dogs in the state of Colorado. And I actually represent them for trying to get the word out there, saying, if you're faking these dogs, which I can't tell you how much that aggravates me. There's only one word I can say, and that word is shame, complete shame. And there's only a few
guess we lost him.
Yeah. Well, and I agree fully.
Service dog and a emotional ESD, emotional support dog. They are coming out with different types of service dogs, like autism service dogs. No, you're good.
Awesome.
Feel free to interrupt me.
Is that what yours?
All the time, so just feel free.
No, we just lost your connection for a little bit, and so we
really
missed part of what you were saying, Christopher.
People say, my dog's a legit service dog when, you're looking at them. What's up?
We missed you keep fading in and out, and so I didn't know if you need to refresh or something, but you were fading in and out, so we were missing part of what you were saying.
Yeah.
All right, one sec.
All right. Well, and the other thing that we can discuss next week too is training aids, tools that I use. Like the first thing that I train a dog on is going to be a 15-foot line. And then I use a 6-foot line, the different collars that we use, and, how we can start, because I would love to give out information where people can take and apply it to their lives to help with their relationship with their dog. And if they're not having any problems right now, if they just want a better, understanding and start to do the obedience work, I would be happy to blab about that.
Cool. Right on. So I think I'm going to put that on for next week, because I think that would be helpful, just even in what Christy was asking today. It's like, well, where do I start with basics? What should I be doing? And that kind of thing. So I'm going to bring Christopher on. I'm going to try to go till about 1:30, so 10 more minutes. And then we will continue this with another blab next week. So I think Christopher can come on here.
All right.
Let me in for a second. Hold on. You know what? I'm going to let her, I'll let him in. Oops. You going to jump out, Christy?
I can pop out. So.
Okay.
Yep.
I will
pop out so you can come in.
Okay, cool.
All right.
So I think that's David. Hero IKX. There he is. Yes, it's David. See, memory. My memory's coming in.
Nonprofit help.
Sweet.
Cool.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Great to meet you, buddy. No, I just wanted a quick note. I just got Laura and Therese into the room right now. They're great friends of mine. They're awesome people with pets. Laura's great with animal behaviors. She has her own sanctuary. And Therese is fantastic with dogs. She always has like a program on Periscope with different shows and programs and games to do with dogs. So, just wanted to hook you guys all up. And I'll just leave it to you guys from here on so you could keep on discussing.
Cool.
Thank you.
Lab too.
This is it's Bill's very first blab.
Oh no, awesome, great. I mean, we're trying to kind of build like a pet community in here, so get more shows going on, like what you're doing now, CJ or JT. I'm sorry. I mean, and what Christopher is doing, I mean, I think it's wonderful. Being that he's has autism and is actually a dog trainer and all that. That's awesome. I mean, he could bring so much information that people can't even imagine to it. Well, everybody,
give Chris props.
Right, feel free to follow each other in here. That's that way we could connect to each other. That's how I was able to connect with Therese and Laura. Call them into the room. That way, we find each other quicker.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just click on the little person on the top. The little check mark next to it, and if you scroll over the people's profiles, you can follow them directly through there.
I'm trying to see how I can. Profile.
One of the issues we might be having, Christopher, is that you are not either hardwired in or your internet's kind of wobbly right now. So my best advice is for you to connect directly, hardwire your computer. And if you're on your cell phone, try to be as close to your router as possible. So I'll let you guys go.
Cool. Thanks, David.
Nice to meet you, man.
Good connector.
Take it easy, guys.
So like I said, I'm going to go till about 1:30 and we'll cut the recording off so that we can put it up for other people to listen to. We're going to do another one next week. I'm going to invite Christopher back in to say a piece here. Have you say a piece before we go, Bill?
Okay.
So
Hey, sorry, man. My phone.
Oh, you're good.
No worries.
And there's Christy's come back on too.
Cool.
I just came back in. I can monitor from the outside, but I was just going to say, JT, that I love that David came in and he was talking about all the different connections that can be made. And this is the awesome thing about Blab is because now you have at least 2 or 3 other people that David brought in for you that you could use as guest hosts and select the shows between. And you've got Christopher here and Bill. You've got a plethora of people who actually have dogs as opposed to people who want a dog and people who drink over dogs.
Well, that's an amaretto. Man, you got to see that amaretto, man. Gee.
But you've got some great reasons. That's right. So I just wanted to come back in and point that out because I just think there's clearly a spot, and as dog ownership and pet ownership grows, there's obviously a market for your show, and I'm so glad you took this leap. But you've got a team of people here that would cheer you on and help you, and I don't have to be your co-host every time, and you don't have to feel obligated to me because you've got some awesome people here who would do a wonderful job. I mean, look at Bill's first day, and he's rocking it.
Yeah, no, I knew Bill. I wasn't worried about Bill. He has all kinds of production stuff he's done, so it's all good. Yeah. And I wasn't worried that he wouldn't have anything to talk about either. So
it's because of this.
Yes.
All as well, yeah. Storing stuff in that beard he's got going on. So
like a copper generator, you know.
Hey, so I've got a topic for.
Can you hear us, Chris?
Oh, you got a topic? Is he?
Hey.
Yeah.
You there?
What's your?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I've got a good topic for next week. If you guys want an idea.
Shoot.
Hold on one sec. My house phone's going off. Okay. Anyway, sorry about that ringing in the background, but there's a good topic is what defines a disability versus what people think a disability is.
Oh.
Yeah.
And you know that's a lot of I guess thinking on, which that doesn't have to be the conversation, but I do want to just point out too before I actually got disconnected, which that's on my end, and I'm sorry, y'all. I have a bad connection. But Bill, to be real honest, people don't realize just how.
Shoot, we keep losing him. We lost you.
Yeah.
Right in a good statement. Right in the middle of a good statement too. Right.
Oh well.
But we'll do one. So Bill, we'll go ahead and we'll do a little planning session here after we jump off of here. Yeah.
All right. One last thing.
What were you saying?
One last thing. Go ahead.
All right. So the last thing I just want to say is, the more people that fake service dogs don't realize the more harm they're doing towards us that actually need them. I have been told about 6 to 8 times already this month that I'm not allowed in a restaurant because of former service dogs coming in and smelling stuff, and that's just all part of it. But yeah, for next week, if y'all don't mind if I pop on for a couple of minutes, I just wanted to not just introduce different techniques, but also really discuss the ADA, which I do represent them for the state of Colorado. I'm not a actual professional representative, but I am a commercial sponsored, benefited person who does stuff for them. So next week, if anyone here has any questions, feel free
cool. Thanks for coming on. We will definitely be getting a hold of you.
Thank you, Chris.
Appreciate the time.
Cool. Right on. Okay. With that, I'm going to go ahead and end it. Bill, you want to add anything? You want to direct anybody to anything you've got going on? You want them to know about in the next couple weeks?
No, I mean, thank you very much. This has been really fun. I mean, this is just another platform that we can use to give out great information that people can use to enhance the lives of their dogs. Probably the best place to reach me would be on Facebook. Just look for my Bow Wow Bills fan page and join me there. Follow me on Twitter. I'm kind of new to all this technology stuff. I know the dogs very well, but you know what? I find it all very fascinating. And how cool was it that we got to talk to these people all around the country, just by hopping on here and sharing our passion and love for these wonderful animals.
I know, it's really cool. I really dig it. So I'm looking forward to building this. And that was my thing too, is I really want to be able to, as you know, I mean, you're in the same boat as I am. I'm doing a little bit different than what you're doing on the hands-on thing these days, but a lot of times people don't find us, feel like they don't have the funds, one of those things. And I think that being able to help people with a foundation when they don't even have a foundation of somewhere to start is really going to help a lot of people. My mission is to really help people help their dogs because, I hate it when people are just frustrated with their dog. All kinds of things happen that are unfortunate that could be solved with a simple sit.
Right.
So
right. Or simple time, and like we were talking about earlier on this in this blab is how do we proof the training so it sticks, and what do these readiness tests look like for the next phase of training, and also, what is the expectations, and and that's what I always direct people to go watch these dogs, the novice obedience title. Go look for the breed that you have. So it's not just the breed that it's possible to do with your dog. We start somewhere, and know that when you work with a vetted, proven professional, that they are going to get you to where you need to be in an accelerated process, and that's what their job is supposed to be. And the other thing that I tell my clients too that's very important is, I don't tell you the dog that you need. You tell me the dog that you want, and I help you get there as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. And so that's my job as a professional. And a lot of times, with all these unique cases, I look at it as an art and a science. And so I listen, and there's teachers everywhere. And, just know that I'm not the expert. Your dog is the expert. And let's let them show us what works.
Right. Exactly. Cool. So, and I'll talk about this a little bit next week. One of my missions, on top of being able to help people just in all kinds of areas with their dogs, and be able to come on live and feel like they can really have a conversation when they need the help or they want to know something, is I also have a thing called Wonder Dog Fund. That fund is all about helping people who might be in a situation where they have a health issue with their dog, very large vet bill, and not enough funds. So I'm raising money to help people who are in that scenario, because I've now been interviewing and talking to people and realizing that people actually have to give their dog up to rescue or make a decision they don't want to make because they simply don't have the funds in a situation like that. So we'll talk more about that. I just want to interject that really quick and let you know what my mission is here and what we have for you coming up in the next few weeks. So we'll go ahead and sign off.
Right. And I was just going to say that we should also talk about homeopathic remedies. And
absolutely. Yes. And that, honestly, Bill, is one of the things that perpetuated me along here, because a lot of times people don't know about those sorts of care techniques, and the fact that you could really do a lot for your dog on those, not only for their health, their longevity, but also your pocketbook. So there's a whole big thing about that that we can go through. And in one of my missions in the Wonder Dog Fund, when somebody has something happen with their dog, is to get information out to that person on how they can take care of their dog in the future. Because obviously something's happened that they need, either catastrophic help or whatever. And there are ways that they can help with simple ear infections that are costing them hundreds and hundreds of dollars at the vet that they could solve with, apple cider vinegar that's like $2 a bottle or something like that.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Anyway, it's pretty stoked. Yeah.
Gave you a couple more props. Now you're at 100 props there.
Yes. Let's see if we can even this out. We'll do. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off for this week. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Please invite all of your dog-loving friends to our blab, and we'll get you information about when it is and what it's about. So see you soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye for now.